Talk's brilliant international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
Hi, you were actually making me laugh because you were just so energized by the whole thing. And you know what? It is so bad that in some ways, you've just got to laugh,
If you
haven't
didn't laugh, you'd cry. If you didn't laugh, you'd cry.
Yeah.
And my big sort of personal debate over the last couple of hours is what to lead on, which story to do first.
No.
Because as I just revealed, it is emerging today that 820 migrants have come across the channel today. And as you just heard, while a flotilla of 66 small boats set sail from Ramsgate towards Dunkirk to celebrate, to commemorate the famous World War II evacuation, a border patrol vessel go, "Get out the way! Get out the way! All of you, disperse! We've got a migrant dinghy to come through." I mean, am I missing something? Are we getting our national priorities a bit wrong here? I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
You're not missing anything. And, you know, I was on Mike's show this morning, or maybe I was just listening to Mike's show. I think I was just listening. And, you know, there were a number of, there was one caller, I think she left a voice note, and she said she was literally spending quite a bit of time in tears about the state of our country. And you know what? I get that. You know, Mike says he's never heard people so angry. You know, you and he have been doing these shows for a very long time. And there is something now, a tipping point about the state of our nation.
Yes.
That I think is really, really apparent, don't you? You know, from the calls that we're getting, people are
They're furious. I saw your tweet, and I share your emotions about this. You know, you and I, and Mike, we're all, you know, seasoned journalists. We're used to dealing with politicians, with people from all walks of life who you don't necessarily personally like all that much, but you don't tend to sort of put yourself into this. It's your profession, it's your job, you're objective about it. But you tweeted that you're really struggling to suppress your personal detestation of this Prime Minister, of Keir Starmer. And I share your feelings. There's something so incredibly dislikable about him, mainly because he's a shape-shifting snake oil salesman from whom you cannot trust a single word. This Brexit betrayal this week, absolutely outrageous. There's something unpleasant about this little man that goes above and beyond what we've encountered before, I think, in Westminster, and that's saying something.
I mean, I've reported on, I don't know, about 8 prime ministers or something ridiculous. I mean, most of them in the last year and a half. And I've never despised them. I mean, I've certainly sort of thought a few were better than others, and I've had my moments with Boris and Theresa May and so on. I've never felt, you know, such a kind of visceral kind of despair, I suppose, at somebody leading our country who I don't trust anymore truly has the best interests of the majority of people at heart. I don't think he understands how people feel outside the metropolitan elite circles in which he moves.
Absolutely right, absolutely right. And also, I mean, I would sort of sum up my feelings of a growing epic contempt, because I just think he is he's just fantastically incompetent, so hopeless. So let's discuss first Lucy Connolly. I decided to opt for Lucy Connolly's case first because I think there's something very serious to discuss here. Now, you remember a couple of weeks ago, her lovely husband Raymond, a Tory councillor in Northampton, came onto my show and told of his heartbreak. He's trying to bring up their 12-year-old daughter without their mum, you know, and you would have thought after whatever it is, nearly 300 days behind bars, she should never have been behind bars in the first place, that the appeal court might have shown a bit of mercy. Instead, one of the it's a panel of 3 appeal court judges, Lord Justice Holroyd, announced that her 31-month sentence must stand because there is no basis for an argument that this sentence could be considered manifestly excessive. That is a pile of crap There is every argument to suggest that this court sentence was manifestly excessive. That is the whole point. Of course it was excessive. 31 months for a few nasty words on Twitter. Do me a favour. Do me a favour. And yet she stays in court, in prison. Now, this is what we've got to get through this fast. So I want to run you through the track record of Lord Justice Holroyd's performances over the past few years in the appeal court, whilst he showed no mercy, no leniency towards a young mum who has never done anything wrong before in her life, not so much as a speeding ticket, who lost her temper after the Southport killings because she lost her own child a year ago, and she sympathised with these mums, and she tweeted something that none of us condone, and she immediately regretted something about mass deportation now, set fire to them all. It was horrible. She knew it. She pulled it down. She's doing 31 months for that. That is grotesque. It is grotesque. He should have shown leniency. She was appealing against her awful sentence. Now, let's go through some of the other appeals that Lord Justice Holroyd has presided over. In fairness, appeal courts tend to be a panel of 3 judges. So he's always been a part of a panel of 3 judges, but he has presided over this case. In 2023, Lord Justice Holroyd was part of the Court of Appeal panel that reduced the sentence of former Labour peer Lord Nazir Ahmed. Ahmed was convicted in January 2022 of sexually abusing 2 children in the 1970s. One was a boy under the age of 11, who he tried to have an awful form of sex with, and the other was a girl who he sexually abused. Lord Justice Holroyd and his judge pals decided to reduce Lord Nazir Ahmed's sentence from 5.5 years to 2.5 years, and he was effectively released right away. So in effect, he released this guy. OK, so lot of leniency for that sex offender. Let's move on to Anthony Marsh and Lee Davis. Now, Anthony Marsh, a paedophile with HIV, had unprotected sex with underage boys. He was given a life sentence. This was quashed by Lord Justice Holroyd in the Court of Appeal and replaced with a 12-year term. His accomplice Lee Davis also had his minimum term reduced from 12.5 years to 8 years. So a lot of mercy there shown by Lord Justice Holroyd. Number 3, Alan McCurry, sentence reduction, 2017. Former army sergeant convicted of raping a young girl and committing sex attacks on another, had his jail term reduced by 1 year by the Court of Appeal, including, of course, our friend Lord Justice Holroyd. And finally, last and certainly least, this is Matthew Folder. Matthew Folder, 2018, a Cambridge graduate, one of Britain's most prolific paedophiles. He had his 32-year sentence reduced to 25 years by the Court of Appeal, which included Lord Justice Holroyd. The Court of Appeal, Lord Justice Holroyd used his favourite phrase. When this guy Folder, a prolific paedophile, one of the worst in British history, was sentenced to 32 years. Guess what Lord Justice Holroyd called that sentence? Manifestly excessive. What is going on here? This guy, very happy to reduce the sentence, showing great mercy towards these disgusting sex offenders, but a woman who puts a few nasty words on Twitter, oh no, no mercy for her. Unbelievable.
It genuinely is unbelievable. This case absolutely sickens me. It is manifestly ridiculous and unjust that this woman, whose fleeting loss of self-control actually had no demonstrable impact on anyone or anything. At no point has the prosecution said that what she tweeted actually resulted in anyone doing anything bad. So for what is she being punished? You know, what purpose does it serve, her being behind bars? It makes no sense whatsoever. And, you know, all this human rights brigade that are so quick to use human rights as a grounds for not deporting vile foreign criminals who have done appalling things. What about Lucy Connolly's human rights? You know, seems every week an immigration tribunal judge lets some foreign criminal stay in the UK because if they were deported, their young child might suffer. Well, what about Lucy Connolly's 12-year-old daughter? And what about the right to free speech? All of this has gone out of the window. And the liberal left remains shamefully silent on all of this.
Absolutely. And, you know, I've heard Dan Hodges, a columnist who I occasionally like and occasionally writes things I don't like, but he's capable of being extremely readable and extremely wise. But I heard him today, earlier on Ian Collins' show, saying, oh, these conspiracy theories going on about Keir Starmer's hands being all over these lengthy sentences for the rioters and the posters of saying, well, they've got no proof of this. This is absolute rubbish. Are you joking, Dan? Are you joking? You know, obviously, the Prime Minister instructed the judiciary, I want those rioters in court within days and I want them in prison within a week. And guess what? It happened. In normal circumstances, Lucy Connolly would not even go near a court, let alone a prison. This was all down to the Prime Minister's bid to quell the riots with extremely hefty sentences. Many of them, as I said earlier, grotesquely disproportionate. About 385 people went to jail after those summer riots in the slipstream of that awful Southport horror. 12 of them went to jail for nasty, hurty words on Twitter, on Facebook. None of them should go to jail. No one in a Western democracy should go to jail for nasty words on social media. 31 months, that is obscene. It is obscene. It is a stain on British justice.
Let's not forget that one of those who went to jail, who didn't actually hurt anyone, is actually dead, having taken his own life behind bars, a despairing grandfather. This stuff is just so absolutely shameful on our country. And you know what? Yesterday, I'm sure our listeners clocked this. Keir Starmer stood in a supermarket aisle looking as blank-faced as ever and said that he wasn't familiar with the details of the Lucy Connolly case. Are you kidding me, Prime Minister?
Well,
which bit of you has not bothered engaging with a case that has caused a national outcry? Either you're ignorant, lazy or stupid, or perhaps you're all three.
Probably all three, but we played that footage last night and I was with Rod Liddle at the time and I said, well, I'll tell you what the Prime Minister is doing there, and I can define it technically. He is lying. That is a bare-faced lie. To stand there and say, oh, the Lucy Connolly case, no, I'm not across the details. Are you kidding me? That has been all over every news bulletin on the TV and the radio, all over every newspaper for weeks. It is the case everyone is talking about. And when he said, I'm not really across the details, that would be his useless advisors saying the best way to get through this tricky situation, Prime Minister, is to feign ignorance. No, it wasn't. He made an absolute fool of himself. He was clearly lying and he insulted the intelligence of the nation. Once again, Keir Starmer screws it up in spades.
Absolutely. He looked completely ridiculous standing there amongst the cheese and butter in Lidl, telling us that he didn't know about this case. And it's insulting to people's intelligence. And you know what? People would have given him so much more credit if he'd stood there and said, of course, I'm more than aware of it, and I understand why people feel really passionate about it. And I see the human side of this. Of course I do.
Yes.
But there's a balance here. Well, I think I wouldn't have agreed with him, but I could at least have not felt quite so blood boiling about it.
Yeah.
But instead, stand there like a freaking robot and say that.
Yeah,
what
he was lying. He was lying, and also insulting the intelligence of the nation. I keep hearing, you know, that old Boaty McBoatface or whatever his name is, the ginger guy who runs his office, is a sort of political, master stroker, a brilliant brain. Well, I don't think he is. I don't think he is. Admittedly, he hasn't got a lot to work with in Keir Starmer, but sending him into that situation, say, pretend you don't know about it, that is just pathetic. It's pathetic. And after these messages, after this break, Isabel, we're going to talk about the migrant crisis, and in terms of Keir Starmer's approach to that, that too is beyond pathetic, actually.